Life as we know it has changed. On a recent expedition to Antarctica, researchers made a startling discovery after part of a huge ice sheet broke off, revealing waters long hidden beneath. In it, the scientists encountered what appear to be new species of crustaceans, fish, and other life forms. Hello, and welcome to the Excerpt. I'm Dana Taylor. How is this possible? And just how many more new life forms are waiting to be discovered? Here to shed light on this incredible new development is Jyotika Vermani, head of the Schmidt Ocean Institute, a nonprofit dedicated to global marine research that partially funded this work. Thanks for joining me, Jyotika.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Dana.
The team in Antarctica was researching something else altogether just prior to a hemmed in iceberg cracking off the ice sheet. Walk me through the pivot here. Was there any hesitancy about switching their focus to this newly exposed body of water?
So this was the first time that Schmidt Ocean Institute has been down to Antarctica as part of our first Antarctic field season. And so the team that was on board was, of course, monitoring the ice movements and on a regular basis from satellite imagery, and they saw the crack of this big iceberg from the George VI ice shelf, and of course they were monitoring it. And normally it takes a while for such a large iceberg to break away, but this one started to move quite quickly, and they realized that this was an amazing opportunity, a once in a lifetime opportunity, because they were only a day or two away from that location. And normally it takes scientists months, if not longer, to get to a location where a piece of the ice has broken away. So it was a really fast decision, but it was really serendipitous, and we really all needed to do that.
The researchers discovered new and diverse ecosystems that had long been flourishing beneath the ice, but that the scientific world was wholly unaware of. What to you was the single most surprising find?
I think the most surprising find was that there was so much life under this location. So imagine this is an iceberg that's 150 meters thick. So, and it's been there for decades, if not centuries. And it's dark down there and sunlight doesn't get down there. And so where is this life coming from? Where is it getting its nutrients? So the fact that there was so much life, and not just one type of life, but a variety of life, sponges and corals and sea spiders and just a whole range of life, shows that it was a really mature ecosystem, and it's been there for obviously for a long time. So that was the biggest surprise, I think.
Are we talking about all new species here? And how might this knowledge impact the scientific community?
Some of the species we know about already, and we see them in other parts of the ocean, but there are definitely new species, and it will take a little while to identify what they are exactly. But there are so many yet unknowns about the ocean, not just about what lives there, but also the sea floor itself and what the shape of the sea floor is, if you like. All of this contributes to that knowledge that we will help us to better understand the ocean.
Prior to the iceberg calving, and you discussed this, but I want to circle back to how far below the surface these life forms were, and if it is in any way clear how these species have been able to thrive beneath the ice. Does the early research tell you anything?
So we know how deep the some of this life form is because we have on board our research vessel a very sophisticated underwater robot called ROV Sebastian, which we can put down to about 4,500 meters depth. So in this case, we took it down and we found life as deep as 1,300 meters below the sea surface, which is amazing. How these creatures have thrived is one of the active regions of research now, because it's not had direct sunlight, and normally the nutrients come from the surface and they fall down through the ocean to these vast depths. So life thriving at over 1,000 meters depth is part of the question of where are these nutrients coming from. One possible theory is that they are being brought through by ocean currents that are flowing underneath the ice shelf.
While this is a dazzling discovery, it was unfortunately made possible likely due to climate change. What might future research teach us on that front?
So the beauty of this piece of discovery of getting to this location so quickly after the ice broke off is we now have a baseline of information of what it was like there with the ice above it. And so this now sets a bar for future studies. And so scientists can come back next year or the year after and see how that ecosystem has evolved without the ice above it. And so that will then lend an understanding to what does the world look like if there wasn't ice in covering some of these parts of the world.
And are you concerned about the speed at which some of these species may have to acclimate to surface exposure, or can they perhaps move beneath another part of the ice sheet?
That's a very interesting question. Can they move? Some of them can move. Some of them, though, are embedded in that seabed. So they're anchored in place. And they, of course, will not be able to move. That, again, until we go back or until scientists go back in a few months or a year, it's really difficult to say how this ecosystem is going to evolve. But the fact that we have this baseline information is phenomenal.
What can you share about the tech that made this discovery possible? How did the team do it?
The Schmidt Ocean Institute operates the research vessel Falkor 2. It's a state-of-the-art, sophisticated research vessel. It's 110 meters in length, and it's built for science. And it's got 8 science labs on board. It's got a whole suite of sensors, over 30 ocean and atmospheric sensors on board. And it has an ROV, which is a remotely operated vehicle, which is tethered to the vessel, and which can collect samples as well as 4K video imagery, which we then transmit in real time to the world. And so anyone can join the Schmidt Ocean Institute on our YouTube channel and explore the ocean in real time, just at the same time that the scientists are doing, and make these discoveries at the same time. So it's like exploring a new world, even though it's only a few kilometers away.
I know that in your work you focused on mapping the ocean floor. Roughly how much has been mapped and why is mapping important?
About just over 26% of the seafloor has currently been mapped, which is quite surprising because the ocean covers 71% of our planet. So, really, we've not even mapped half of the planet Earth's surface. And so, we are part of an international program where everyone is contributing the data that they map to this program called Seabed 2030 so that we can get a complete map of the seafloor. And we have on board Falkor 2, our research vessel, full of sophisticated mapping technologies that can map down to the full ocean depth.
As more research expeditions in that area take place, I don't know if they're already underway, but what can you share with us about what comes next in terms of exploration?
The Antarctic is, of course, a very difficult, very harsh environment to operate in. And so it has a field season, which is only a few months, maybe from November, if we're lucky, to March. So the field season this year for Antarctic researchers and for ships to go down there has essentially pretty much ended because the ice has expanded again. So now the next opportunity that scientists will have to go back to this region to continue looking at how the ecosystem has evolved will be most likely late at the end of 2025 would be the earliest for any research vessel really to get down there.
As our oceans continue to warm, do you expect this Bellingshausen Sea discovery to be just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, in terms of finding new species? And could we eventually see some of the sea creatures found there in our more familiar waterways?
I think as parts of the ocean do get uncovered around Antarctica, we will find these species. And in fact, wherever we sail, even away from Antarctica, even in the tropics, we always find new species because there is still so much yet to be learned about the ocean. The ocean, it is about 97% of the living space, the deep sea, of the living space on our planet. And we've only barely scratched that surface in terms of seeing what's down there.
Jyotika, thank you so much for being on the Excerpt.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Dana.
Thanks for watching. I'm Dana Taylor. I'll see you next time.